For decades, the path to American financial security followed a predictable script. A stable job and disciplined savings led to a modest home, which served as the primary vehicle for building generational wealth. Today, that script is interrupted by the listing price. In many major markets, an entirely average, unimpressive starter home now carries a baseline price of $1 million. While $1 million is a staggering figure for any young buyer, that number represents only the surface of the problem. In reality, the sticker price is the least expensive component of the transaction. The actual cost of a home isn't found on a listing site. It is buried in layered, compounding expenses that accumulate over decades, a set of data we can call the true ledger. The data within this ledger suggests that for the average worker, ownership has shifted from a wealth-building tool into a structural financial deficit that is increasingly difficult to survive. To understand why millions of people are being priced out, we have to look past the $1 million sticker price and audit the actual lifetime financial burden of the home. The first line item on our ledger is the initial 20% down payment. On a $1 million property, that equates to a $200,000 upfront cash requirement. Consider a median earner in their late 20s, taking home roughly $50,000 a year. Even with a strict 10% savings rate, it would take 40 years of work just to accumulate that initial capital. This chart illustrates the worker's cash flow. The income bar is overwhelmingly consumed by record-high rent and living costs, leaving a razor-thin savings margin. Adding housing inflation, the target moves faster than savings can grow, with the trendline consistently outpacing capital accumulation. In this environment, saving a down payment is less about personal discipline and more a race against inflation that wage earners are structurally positioned to lose. Even if a buyer clears that first hurdle, they still have a remaining $800,000 balance. Borrowing that massive amount of capital comes with a heavy premium, effectively locking the buyer into a rigid 30-year financial contract. An $800,000 loan at 7% interest creates a massive burden. Over 30 years, the interest eclipses the principal, totaling over $1.1 million. Adding the down payment, principal, and interest updates the true ledger to a staggering $2.1 million running total. Paying more than double the property's original value changes the nature of the investment, moving far beyond the simple wealth-building assumptions of a first-time buyer. The mortgage system is structured so that the lending institution extracts more total financial value from the property over 30 years than the original seller ever received. Even at $2.1 million, the tally is incomplete. We must still account for ongoing carrying costs. These include property taxes, routine home maintenance, and homeowners insurance, mandatory, continuous expenses. Insurance costs in particular are climbing as rising climate risks force providers to hike premiums, shifting the cost of environmental instability onto the individual homeowner. When you combine these carrying costs with a modern mortgage payment, the total monthly outlay for a standard home can exceed $8,000. To safely maintain a mortgage and these recurring costs, a household now needs a gross annual income approaching $280,000. An income of $280,000 places these homes out of reach for 95% of the population. These sprawling suburban tracts have become walled gardens, reserved for the highest tier of earners and inaccessible to the average local workforce. The finalized true ledger is stark. Between the initial capital, 30 years of interest, and the continuous bleed of carrying costs, a $1 million home actually costs the buyer closer to $3 million over its lifetime. A $3 million lifetime commitment creates a significant gap between the cost of shelter and what the median worker actually earns. Real estate has shifted into a high-barrier asset class, moving away from its historical role as a predictable milestone for the working population. We must consider the long-term impact on a society where the primary vehicle for building stability is locked behind a set of impossible calculations. Until the systemic issues of supply and policy are addressed, the math of the true ledger will continue to price the next generation out of their own future. The question remains, who is this new supply actually being built for?